Hello, everybody, and happy Monday. I've been out watching music all weekend. I've had a glorious weekend. I hope you have too. But we have quite a shocking week ahead. So expect the unexpected kind of week. I mean, it could be a weekend of like amazing surprises and shocks, but we have a few things I'm going to talk about. The Sun and Venus will both meet Uranus. Ceres stations retrograde, and where she's stationing retrograde is kind of a bit important. Mercury moves into Taurus. Pallas Athena retrogrades back into Scorpio, and the Sun meets Jupiter, and Mars meets the North Node. So we could have a few surprises this week, but I pulled some cards and I am going to share the screen because I took a photograph. So I am using the Tree Devia deck. There is a discount code for those that like the look of this deck. I'm just trying to move that. So I guess I could make the picture a bit smaller. There we go. So I pulled three for the week. Vaguely start of the week, middle of the week, and end of the week. Okay, and this is the Tree Devia Tarot deck again. Tridevia, and I'm really liking this deck. But anyway, Two of Wands was the start of the week, reversed. And this really, twos are usually a decision, and wands, of course, is fire element. And that feels very appropriate to me for this week with Mars heading towards the North Node, especially because we're just heading out of eclipse season, which was new and full moons conjunct the nodes. But the deck book that goes with this deck says you might have great dreams, but lack a plan to accomplish them. Consider reviewing all the possibilities and choose the one or ones, I'm going to say, that most aligns with your soul purpose. This might not be the easiest option and could actually be the one that seems the most challenging. But remember that there's no growth in your comfort zone and that your efforts will pay off. And the affirmation for that card is, I'm ready to step into the unknown and accept the amazing opportunities that are offered to me. Now, that really feels very of this week because, Uranus can bring major surprises and opportunities, and Jupiter can too. So, all right. So the second card I pulled was the Hanged Man, and again, it was reversed. And this is really just a sign to slow down. Um, you know, there's quite a lot of speed this week. Mars is in their own sign, Venus is in their own sign. Uranus kind of makes things feel more erratic and restless. Sun meeting Jupiter is kind of a speed up as well in many ways. Mercury and Uranus have both now passed the point they last stationed retrograde at. So we only have Ceres slowing things down, really. So it is a speedy week. So this is a call just to remember and to be mindful, saying, don't forget to make the space to listen to the voice within, okay? And then you'll be able to move forward with more energy. So don't forget to tune in and listen. And then we finish the week with the Seven of Wands, more fire. Now, I have to say that this could mean we do encounter a bit of a challenge this week with the seven. But you can see, look at this card. I always invite people really to tune in and see what the image tells them. So this card, she is really kind of tuned in, holding that wand up to her head with the diamond at the bottom. All the other ones are kind of coming at her a little bit. So you might kind of feel like that the world is challenging a little bit this week. And this is a real kind of call to come into that center. The actual book says you might be under attack by someone or something who wants to take something that's yours. Be cautious so that you're not left unprepared if some challenges do arise. you should be prepared in case you need to protect yourself from what is after you, like energetic protection we're talking about. However, you do have the strength and the power to overcome anything that is in your way. Stay brave and have the courage to face your fears. So, pretty big week ahead. Not anywhere near as kind of crazy challenging as April was, because April, had the eclipses um and the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction and things like that. But it could be in a really amazing week too. So let's dive into the astrology. So there's the cards. You can always go back and take a screenshot if you want to look at things like that. So here we are, Monday, the May the 13th. Oh, time's flying so fast this year. Always seems to these days. And we actually started the day this morning with the Sun conjunct Uranus at 23 degrees Taurus. And so this is a day where there could be some big surprises, some, big turns of events. Uranus is always expected, the unexpected, but he's really the great awakener. So, I don't see this. It could be a bit of a challenge, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. I tend to like Uranus surprises, and I've been very animated this morning, and that's probably why, because I'm still under the orb of my Uranus square. So, it's in Taurus. I don't know what the stock market's doing. I don't check these things anymore, but I'm just going to quickly look at my few stocks I have to see where they are, because there could be some, ups and downs in the arena of finances, with this being in Taurus and with Venus also coming up to meet Uranus. But it's also, we've been working for quite some time on getting very rooted in our values and on really kind of getting down to earth and into our senses and into our bodies and what really matters. And that's what's really kind of feeling that what's up with this for me. How we connected to our senses, to what we can see, what really matters, what are our values. I asked everybody in my Substack for quite a while, and I mentioned it on my videos, for people to really kind of identify their core values, because this is where we're going. In my work, I try to look at the overall cycles and say, where are we going overall, not just this week? And so, if you hadn't identified your values, or even if you had, this could be an aha, today, or this week. Oh, that's it. That's the one. Okay. But anyway, this is where we're starting today. And as I already mentioned, Uranus has passed the point where it stationed retrograde last year, August. Mercury is now past the shadow point as well. And so we're really kind of like building on a lot of things we've been moving towards. Other major aspects today, I don't think there's a huge amount. I haven't actually written my daily article, but well, there is a couple of things worth mentioning. And one of them is quite amusing, and I will mention it later. But for me, Mars is square to Pholus. So as well as Uranus, the Great Awakener, coming up, Mars is strong in their own sign of Aries, square to Pholus, which is the Pandora's box centaur, where the lid comes off. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the testimony in the Trump trial, with Michael Cohen testifying today, I believe. Because I've been traveling, I'm a bit out of the news kind of thing, but there could be something come out of the box today in some way. And there could be for you, but it might be your literal box, kind of memories. or I'm not going to take this anymore. Something more about the structures of life that you live under. One other lesser aspect is that Venus is going to sextile Saturn. And funnily enough, I was just thinking about a Venus-Saturn conjunction that happened in 2020 when I did my walk this morning. This one is more kind of helping us get grounded in those values and saying, yeah, whatever kind of comes out of the box or what surprises we get, Saturn can help us. Well, Venus and Saturn, because Venus is strong in their own sign too. Saturn can say, yeah, let's just get this clarity here on what we're creating. Okay, so that's Monday. Let's move into Tuesday. Gosh, and then we're about halfway through the month. Gosh, what a time flying. Tuesday, there's really no huge aspects. The moon has moved into Leo by then. The Leo moon is always a little bit brighter. The moon is waxing now, so the moon is gaining light. So we're really in the action phase of the lunar cycle. So, it's time to get working on these ahas and creations that are building. So you want my daily blog if you want all the lunar aspects as well to go through. May the 15th, early in the morning, I am actually just going to get us to that exact point. Ceres stations retrograde, and she will station, oh, well, we're not on Juno. Anyway, this is when she'll turn direct. She'll turn direct on August the 26th at 7 Capricorn, conjunct my Saturn. But May the 15th, early on May the 15th, Ceres will station retrograde at 21 degrees and 32 minutes of Capricorn. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers, if you follow astrology, if you don't, but in January of 2020, we all kind of know what was kicking off then. Ceres was here. Ceres has about a 4-year cycle because she is in the asteroid belt. She's not an asteroid, she's a dwarf planet. I actually think she's a personal planet. I will get that book written one day. I'm writing 2 books now. But anyway, well, the big conjunction was all at 22 degrees Capricorn, and that's where Ceres was back then in January of 2020. And here she is. She's gone all the way around the zodiac. She's almost at the 22-degree mark and will go back to 7 degrees. It kind of feels like something is kind of, finishing up from that time. Something is kind of reminding us of that time. So I'm going to actually show you that big conjunction. Just so there you see, there was Ceres. Okay, 22 degrees. Most people remember that it was a Saturn-Pluto conjunction, but the Sun, Ceres, and Mercury were all there too. Well, tomorrow, literally, well, May the 15th, early, sorry, when Ceres stations retrograde, she's almost back at that point again and has been all the way around the zodiac. So can you believe it's been, just over 4 years since that point? So, there's going to be echoes, and now she's going to go retrograde till 7-degree Capricorn. She's going to say, what have we learned about what nurtures us, what feeds our needs, what in society, what's been brought up over the last 4 years and 4 months, 4 years and 4 months, about what we've learned through the whole pandemic, through the whole turmoil that we seem to have been going through. But one thing I've learned, and I'm going to bring it up because I can't even remember now where I saw it. I saw an interview with somebody say, and I think I watched it on the plane, so it kind of just popped up, talking about we always feel like the Earth's falling apart, like we are falling apart, like everything's kind of collapsing. And that people are cruel to each other and we're so separate. But this person made a really good point, and I wish I could remember who it was, of how barbaric people have been in history and how we are actually, even though it's awful, oh my God, what's happening in Rafa is dreadful. I'm not condoning anything, of course. We are actually, less barbaric to each other than we were. Diplomacy is higher. We are in a, time of chaos and change. But I do think we've evolved. And I was like, you're right. I've studied a lot of history. I'm sure most of you have. And we are less barbaric than we used to be. So there's a lot of hope, I think, for humanity, to be honest. And I've been talking about that for a while. And part of my aim with my work is to give you a bit of hope and stop, kind of everybody going, oh, this is all awful. And, let's face the world with possibilities. But anyway, by May the 15th as well, when Ceres goes retrograde, Mercury will be at the very last degree of Aries, about to move into Taurus. Anything else that day? Well, Mercury will actually move into Taurus that afternoon. So let's move to that point. And incidentally, while we're on Mercury and Ceres, they actually have kind of some correspondence. In the Roman Day Consentis, I've actually done series presentations. You could probably find them on my YouTube channel if you look through the videos or search, where Mercury and Ceres were actually their Ceres, okay, at her station point, where these two were actually paired in the circle of the gods and goddesses in early Rome. And in that respect, I actually do think they have a correspondence astrologically as well. Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. It's the personal planet that represents our mind. Then we've got Venus, which is really kind of the heart and the body and the physical. And then we have the Earth, and then we have Mars, which is the next planet out away from the sun, which is kind of our guardian and our warrior energy. But he's the guardian. He was the guardian of agriculture, Mars, at one time. And then we have Ceres, just out there, surrounded by all the asteroids, kind of her helpmeets, if you like, her handmaidens, or whatever you want to call them. And Ceres has been hiding in plain sight all that way. But my point is, this is why I think Ceres is a personal planet. Mercury and Ceres are both at the boundaries of our personal energy. And Ceres is our needs. She's out there protecting our needs, saying, this is, what you need to kind of look. If you think of you as the planets in that order, up to Ceres, okay, afterwards they're transpersonal, okay. And Saturn really is out beyond the asteroid belt as well. And so, we have these planets, and I'm going to call Ceres a planet, kind of saying all our parts here. Okay, so in some ways, we've got the sun and the moon, the luminaries, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Ceres, and then Saturn out there. Here's the limits, the visible 7 planets. Does that make you think? Anyway, let's yeah. Have I missed one? My mind's not flowing right this morning. No, I don't think I have. Anyway, just a thought. That's part of what's kind of coming in my book. So that's the 15th. So it is a pretty big deal to my mind that Ceres is stationing retrograde and that she's stationing retrograde in the sign of Capricorn, the structures under which we live. How have we figured out with what feeds our needs in the structures of our lives personally and in society. And then Mercury moves into Taurus, joining that Taurus party that's saying, let's get rooted, let's look at our real core values. That's a really hot sign this year because we had that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction at 21 degrees Taurus on April the 20th in an exact trine to Ceres. So there's a lot to think about there, about what we're building up and about getting rooted in those values, in your body, in your humanness, in your senses. Okay. So I better move on. Nothing other that I'm really going to talk about on the 15th, bigger wise. On the 16th, let me move this forward a day. The moon has now moved into Virgo. We actually have had the first quarter moon that will be from Leo to, in fact, let me just bring that back. I am actually just going to look at that because then we'll move to the 16th. So early in the morning on May the 15th, we do have the first quarter moon. And this is at 25 degrees Leo, but I wanted to show it because all of this is squaring Hecate, and Hecate, the way shower, has been hovering in that area of the chart for quite a while. She was Demeter or Ceres' guide to find Persephone. We talked about this in my Venus retrograde class last year. And now Venus is coming up to square this as well. And this is where Venus was retrograde last year. We've got a lot harking back to last summer as well. And we have been doing for a while. What have you learned in that last Venus cycle? And incidentally, by the way, I am going to be teaching the Venus star point work to my community, my nest community, from July when Venus is visible in the sky's evening star again. I'm going to do it as a series of monthly calls over the next evening star Venus cycle to teach this important Venus star work. I'm going to be starting with what we call level 1. So, you know, as well as the other things I offer my Nest community, I'm going to be offering that. I'm going to be recording it so I can sell it as a download separately, but Nest members will get it free. So join my Nest. Anyway, here's Hecate showing the way, saying, you know, you've found that the way forward really is to get rooted, Taurus, in the heart, in Venus sign. Venus, I really think Venus is the heart of everything, and the heart is the most important part of our consciousness. So all my work points me to that. So the 16th then, as I was saying, I don't think there's any major aspects on that day. I will mention that Ceres squares Chiron again on the 16th. So Ceres has just squared Chiron and is now retrograde and squares Chiron again. Chiron has moved to 21 degrees. Chiron was exactly conjunct the eclipse, if you remember, on April the 8th. So we're really healing, outdoing her. I keep talking about it, but we are really kind of coming into the core self, the divine inner child, into your heart, doing our own healing, letting go of decades of centuries of trauma, PTSD and things. I see it with clients, I see it with me. I've never felt more alive, to be quite honest. I've never felt more me. And I've seen a lot of people saying that. Of course, you have to kind of do the work, but the planets are supporting you. So that's worth a mention that Chiron will square Ceres at 10:54 a.m. on the day. Venus will also trine Ceres. So that's her mama. These two are coming together later in the year at 0 Aquarius. But I think this is kind of like the Demeter Persephone story. This is more the Venus retrograde story to me. A lot of us astrologers, and I did too, used Inanna's descent for the retrograde. I actually think Inanna's journey is this current journey Venus is under on the other side of the sun. And I think they're more grounded, earthly, because Ceres came down. She was a goddess, but she came down amongst the humans, is more about our human story when Venus goes retrograde. So this is, again, about finding yourself, doing your own healing, going into your personal underworld, doing your root healing. So there you go. Giving you a lot today. And obviously Mercury, Uranus, and it's obviously making me talk a lot because it's squaring my Uranus still. Mercury on the 17th will square Pluto. Pluto is still at 2 degrees Aquarius wet. Pluto stationed retrograde. So maybe a lot to think about, you know, shadow work, about diving in deep to do that healing that we're talking about. A lot of thinking about that. And I think those are the main aspects for the 17th. But we can see that the moon's in Virgo. We're in that real action phase of the moon phase after that first quarter moon that we looked at. On the 18th, that's another big day. Move that forward. Venus will conjunct. Let me get that one exact. Conjunct the Awakener, Uranus. And yes, I've actually missed saying that Pallas moved back into Scorpio, but that's kind of a lesser thing. But Venus meets Scorpio, Venus meets Uranus on the 18th at 23 degrees, 23 minutes of Taurus. Now then, I did mention that Venus was trine Ceres, right? As Ceres station retrograde pretty much. Do you know that 23 Taurus is the exact degree and minute that Ceres was discovered at on January the 1st, 1801? How do you remember these things, Louise? I really have no idea. But also 23 is 23 is the most human number. I've written blog posts on it. You can look it up. You know, you can Google 23. It's the number of chaos magic. It's the number of DNA pairs of chromosomes that we have. It's the number of days in the biorhythm cycle. It's the number of seconds blood takes to go around the body. It's the number of digits we have physically, which is 10 fingers, 10 toes, 2 ears and a nose, 25. It's it's the most human number possible, and it's the number of chaos magic as well. And here is Venus and Ceres being these personal planets, the divine feminine in many ways, if you like. And I'm going to say I'm not going to be convinced that astrologically Ceres is not a personal planet. She actually fits what's called Bode's law, which most astrologers went, oh, well, Bode's law doesn't work because we haven't got a personal planet then. Anyway, so she's nurturing needs, the great mother, she's grief, loss as well. But if you think about it within you, she's all those things within you as well. About grief and loss for perhaps your mother wound. I see have showing up a lot in mother wounds. Here they are in a trine to each other with Venus and Uranus meeting at Ceres discovery degree. You cannot make the astrology up that we are experiencing lately. Now, at a collective level, when my book gets written, I am going to talk about how Ceres was discovered in the Industrial Revolution. And so in that respect, she's reflective of how what we've done with the Industrial Revolution, which improved lives for many humans, but also raped the earth quite a lot, really, how we're changing, how we're awakening to what we've done to the earth. But this works at all levels for what we've done to ourselves as well. And Uranus is also like not only the great awakener, Uranus is hugely, hugely related to trauma. Mark Jones, the astrologer's work, is kind of the best, I think, on Uranus as related to PTSD and trauma. It shows in people's personal charts as trauma, and it shows in collective chart as trauma. Need I say more? Awakening to the trauma of what we are doing to us, our home, our physicality, in all ways. You know, the climate, the earth, our food, our emotional unmet needs as well, our mother wounds, how we have, you know, all this is up, and it's up to be healed and broken. So I'm just blown away that this is at the exact degree and minute to where Ceres was discovered. And this really proves to me the importance of Ceres. So Venus is also, May the 18th. That's huge because Venus is in her own sign there, and it's square to where Venus was retrograde last summer. The star point was at 20 degrees Leo, so that's, you know, big enough to be a square. Hecate is still square that. We're really awakening to our humanness, as I call it. I love to play humanness. It's kind of a bit of a play on who, the owl. Who am I now in this new world as a human? Anyway, I play with words too much. The moon moves into Libra on that day too. Venus, other sign, another thing that you cannot make up really in many ways. Just astounding astrology this week in a good way, I think. This is probably one of the most healing weeks. Later that day, the sun will catch up to Jupiter too. And I'll hark back, Jupiter and Uranus had their conjunction, the first conjunction in Taurus since 1941. The conjunction happens every almost 14 years. I did a whole thing on that. You know, look at this energy on the same day, Venus meeting Uranus, the sun meeting Jupiter. The sun and Jupiter saying it's time to be expansive, it's time to create from this more grounded, rooted, less trauma or less PTSD triggered place. This is like, wow. Oh, I hope you love my animated self today because I'm just like mind blown by all this. Sunday, a bit less going on, but not that much. Because, in fact, let me get it exact. Sunday the 19th, Mars in their own sign. Again, I talked about that. And incidentally, their nodes have moved off the 15-degree mark, which was where they were sat right through the eclipses. But Mars actually at 11:58 Eastern PM. So very end of Sunday here, already Monday for some of you. Mars will meet that north node. That was, you know, the eclipse was conjunct that north node. And so meanwhile, the moon has moved to Libra. The moon goes over the south node. The eclipse energy is majorly activated on that day. And what we are changing is activated. Because this is 5, 14, 5 is a number of change. What are we, and this is in that sign of that divine child. Go and look up Jung's divine child if you want to know more about that. But we are finding our core selves. Those of us that are doing the work, at least, there's a lot in the unconscious state, but I do see a lot of people going this way. I see people, really traumatized people, healing so much PTSD and CPTSD, or at least learning how to bring it into balance of that polyvagal, and that vagus nerve to keep that center and keep returning to that center even after going into a trauma response. It's just such a healing time, and that will ripple out collectively. But anyway, look at this. So this is conjunct the North Node. So this is where we're going. This is where we're being pushed towards, to finding that core self and doing our own healing. I even said to somebody last week when we were talking about all this, I said, we're in some ways right now, we've got the opportunity and the requirement to be our own doctor, therapist, all those kind of things. I'm not saying don't get outside support, but there's books on on all the parts work and things like that, and videos that are really helping people in addition to maybe therapy as well. But then there's also the EMDR and things. But the therapy has switched really to helping people. They don't just sit there and endlessly rehash the trauma ever again. They go within, feel where it is in the body, and then learn to recognize that response and more. It's a profound time. And then look at this as well. We've got Hygeia on that day. Hygeia is like the preventative health asteroid. And she is a seer. She's like, what do I need to do to heal myself? She is square to Vesta and really square to Ceres. Again, all of these things are just coming in. And this is our inner flame, self-care, 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 self-care that I'm always rabbiting on about. This is just, I think this is a week that is going to be another pivotal week in a good direction. And sometimes the surprises that pivot the good direction are not always pleasant, but sometimes they are too. On to Monday morning, we are just going to finish there. The moon is still in Libra. The moon will come up in square Ceres in opposed Chiron, but I'll talk about those in my daily blog. And then the sun will finish her month in Taurus and enter the sign of Gemini. So here we have Gemini season starting 8:59 a.m. next Monday. I will leave it there because the other aspects are later in the day, so I should get this done before that. But what a week. Honestly, I really think this is a week where there's a profound opportunity to take a huge leap forward. I'm going to quickly share the picture of the cards again because I want to remind you of that middle card. So to put it briefly, these two are fire. And you may feel that things are coming at you because, it's a lot. Surprises, things. There may be even like some trauma triggers, but there's that perfectly balanced, centered person protecting themselves and their needs. But don't forget to slow down and do that self-care and listen to your inner voice because it is quite restless and erratic this week. That was longer than I intended, and I haven't written my blog yet, but I will see you next week or sometime in the week, whenever.